Hello and welcome. I'm Darren. And it appears that whilst I was sleeping, Nvidia did a thing, and they did the thing that AMD didn't do. So, congratulations to Nvidia. You launched a GPU. AMD, what the hell? What the hell were you doing? What happened? What happened? I can only think at this point, maybe probably to what I was saying yesterday. Because the AMD presentation seemed a bit odd. Now, admittedly, I haven't watched that guy on stage before, and I don't know if he was just extremely nervous or visibly shaken. But I don't know. I don't see a way where AMD didn't think about launching their GPUs yesterday. It seems all a bit odd. It's a bit strange to me. They would have known that people were anticipating. They're not stupid. They would have seen what was going on online. They would have known what people were saying. They would have known what all the content creators, like the major players were saying. Everyone was expecting AMD to do a GPU launch. Because as far as I know, these GPUs have been ready to go for quite a while. And that's another thing that is kind of frustrating with AMD. If they've been ready that long, just launch the damn things. So obviously, I think a lot was said on Moore's Law is Dead. I'm pretty sure he was saying, like, before Christmas, they are ready to launch. And I actually anticipated that they might launch them around... I actually thought that they might launch them before, if I remember right, Star Wars Outlaws and Indiana Jones, because of the apparent leap in ray tracing they were going to have. So I was kind of anticipating that they would possibly launch those GPUs before that. As of this moment, they still haven't bloody launched them. They seem to have told, obviously, the people that are there, the content creators that are there, so the media as such, a lot more than what they decided to throw into a presentation. And I kind of get the feeling that they might have got wind just before this presentation what Nvidia were planning on prices, because Nvidia prices has shocked everyone, and it kind of goes to show you that rumors are nothing more than a rumor until it happens, because everyone's been thrown Nvidia under the bus with the obviously prices that we were expected to get. Now, whether Nvidia did intend for those prices, and seeing the negativity towards them across those rumors has made them decide to drop those prices, I don't know. Whether Nvidia are going in on a case of they're confident that AMD have got nothing for this generation and they're just going to sell more than what they normally would, I don't know. We'll take a quick look into Nvidia at the moment, but I still feel like AMD intended to do a presentation yesterday. And I think something stopped them from doing it. But we will find out. And I'm not going to write AMD off yet, because I think AMD can still launch something good this generation. And the reason I think that is because I'm not over at this moment convinced by anything that Nvidia have shown so far that there is a massive leap in performance to be had here. Now, you have the outlier of the 5090, and that might be a different story. But in looking at what they've shown so far, I'm slightly concerned. So the one thing that is definitely good is the price. Now, it's not good. 2,000 for obviously, I'm speaking in... From what I've witnessed through my time in building PC stuff, generally, we don't have the dollar conversion rate in the UK. So generally, if something sells for 2,000, when it certainly comes to PC stuff, if a GPU is $2,000 US, it is equating to £2,000. It shouldn't be. But unfortunately, that seems to be where we get shafted in the UK. So when I'm speaking, it doesn't matter really if I'm in dollars or pounds, because 2,000 is probably what it's going to be. So obviously 5090, 2,000, and then the 5080, which is the biggest surprise to everyone, 1,000. Now, I expected 1,200, and my thoughts were that Nvidia launched the 4080 Super, and it opened up that $1,200 or £1,200 slot that the 5080 would nicely move into. So I was surprised when I saw 1,000. I'm not going to say I'm happy with it. I don't know how it's going to perform, and 1,000 is still a serious amount of money for a GPU. However, it is in specs half of a 5090, excuse me, and it seems to be half of the price. So in that respect, I'm happier with that, because if it was going to be half of a 5090 and then, you know, 2/3 of the price, then that just ain't good. So it is what it is. It's cheaper than what I was expecting, and because of that, it seems that obviously the 5070 Ti has come out at a cheaper price than what I was expecting. That could be decent. And then obviously the 5070 below that. Now the 5070, 12 gigabytes of VRAM is still pretty shit from what I'm concerned, and that card will be, power-wise, if it is around, we'll kind of check it out in a minute, because I would expect that everything should just shift up the stack, and we'll try and work that out, because from what Nvidia showed us, it's a little bit hard to work out their performance figures, because they're doing the shitty thing, which they all do now. Unfortunately, it is the way it is, and raster performance isn't something that we're getting told now. Let's shift over and let's have a little look online at what they gave us yesterday. So this is, I was just having a quick look on this. So 5090, obviously the biggest thing here is they're using this 4 times frame generation within this, which is completely destroying any idea that we can get from this, which is kind of very annoying. Obviously the one outlier is here, and it's very similar within the 5080 bench. Obviously I'm using a 5080, so it's kind of easier for me to just stick with 80 series performance. And this is a bit of an awkward one, because I remember reading something early in the generation. It was something coming from Nvidia themselves saying memory bandwidth has a big... Apparently there were big gains to be made in ray tracing performance with GDDR7 because of the extra speed and bandwidth that they would get from GDDR7. And apparently it scaled very well in ray tracing applications. So obviously we can't really figure out anything from this, and all we're left with is obviously here. But unfortunately these are both with RT on. I'd like to actually have seen something that didn't include RT, because admittedly I don't know these games that well, and I don't know how big the RT impact is in both of these games. Now if it's not a huge impact in both of those games, then a lot of this will probably be raster performance. And if it is raster performance, you can probably guess that it might be somewhere around 4090 in raster. I wish we would have got something a bit more convincing in what we were told. So unfortunately, that's all we can guess at the moment. Now I do remember as well something at a few months ago, I do remember a lot of people were talking in a conversation that the 4080 would still step below the 4090, original 4090, and it would probably be more like the Chinese version. I can't remember what it was called. Was it the 4090D or whatever it was, that was obviously slightly nerfed for the Chinese community, and they'd obviously was saying that the 5080 will still have to fit in to that criteria to be able to be used in China. I don't know. I don't have all the details on what had to be done to the 4090 to allow it to be sold, or the 4090D. I'm not sure. But a lot of people were saying it won't be 4090 performance, because that will still stop it from being sold in China. So it would have to be around the performance of the 4090. I believe it was D. I could be completely wrong. So that might be a thing. I don't know if there was a huge difference in it. So unfortunately, yes, this is what we got, and it didn't really tell us that much more. But going from there, we can go to... Why I just did that, I don't know. In fact, we're going to have a quick look at... no, that's not where I want to go. What we'll quick do is have a look in a game and see where we can kind of figure out, because I'm only going to go to... That ain't going to help me. That will. We'll just go to the last game that was on here. And we will go to... I'm not going to go through all the games. Obviously, different games vary. Because we now try to figure out what are AMD doing and what are Nvidia doing. Because this could potentially be bad for AMD. Because we don't know. If we guess that Nvidia allowed the leaks of the prices to happen, then we can guess that they're happily allowing that to happen for reaction reasons. So we can obviously then guess, okay, are AMD doing exactly the same thing? Which I wouldn't put past them. So with AMD, what are we expecting? And going by what I saw yesterday in the graph that I saw yesterday, in fact, shall we quick see if we can find it? I apologise, I wasn't ready with this. So I can't even remember what they called it now. 9070XT. Let's have a quick look and see if we can bring up that graph. Yes, here. In this smallest fucking size you've ever seen in your life. That's handy. No. So, come on, actually be like a decent size. Again. I hate this fucking Bing. Bing can blow me. So, judging by this graph, if this graph actually means anything, the 9070 XT was almost touted to be somewhere around sometimes 4080 in raster performance. And then it's labelled here at 7900 XT, but the 7900 XT in a certain few games would go above the 4080. So it's hard to really tell if those were the reasons, those were the outliers, but then it would fall more in line with the 7900 XT. So let's say that it's going to be around 7900 XT, because even though they might have said it will reach 4080 Super, I'm kind of in the feeling that that's in a scenario where the 7900 XT does, and that's not a huge amount of scenarios. You're talking Call of Duty pretty much. So, you know, trying to forward think on what, you know, AMD are possibly thinking. But I suppose if we think right now, even let's have a look at the 1440p. More people play at 1440p. So we're now going to have a 5090 in here. We're now going to have a 5080 in here. We are probably the 5070 Ti is going to slot in at 4080 performance, and then you've probably then got, I don't know, where's the 5070? Is the 5070 going to leapfrog the 4070 Ti? It probably will. So that leaves the XT is going to drop down to... It's going to drop down a few places. It's going to drop down 3 places. The 7900 XT is going to drop down... Is it going to drop down below the 5070? Because it's pretty close here to the 4070, so you'd imagine it is. And then obviously AMD aren't bringing anything next generation that's likely to go above. This isn't obviously a RT situation, so I don't think that they're going to beat the XT in raster. So they're not going to bring anything next generation that's going to go above this. So AMD are going to drop down in the benchmarks. And it's not huge, but it's not, again, it's not a great look when you're looking at a benchmark and it's just full of green. And then you're looking at your first AMD GPU, which is still, as it appears, going to be this going all the way through the next generation, which is going to be moved down by, it's going to have at least another 3 GPUs above it. And then this one is going to obviously be pushed down the order. Obviously, these are going down with them, but then there are going to be new cards that are going to slot in between. So, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work out too well for AMD next generation, and I worry about them because I don't want AMD to do bad. There's no reason for that. I quite like the AMD GPU I bought. I'd probably buy one again, but now I'm kind of thinking, I have a 4080 and I have a 7900 XTX. Am I even going to get another GPU next generation? Because other than that, obviously we've seen some, I haven't watched their full thing. I've been trying to catch up throughout the day. I've been at work. I've only just got home and I have a situation where the children are out. So I've just found a quick 20 minutes of time to make this video up. And obviously we are going to get an improvement to DLSS 4, or DLSS 4 is going to be an improvement for all of the RTX series Nvidia GPUs. Obviously, the biggest thing that is coming to the 50 series, and the thing that is only for the 50 series, is going to be the frame generation thing. And I'm going to be honest with you, the frame generation thing is probably, as far as it goes at this moment in time, the frame generation is the least thing that I'm particularly bothered about. I use it and it's not bad. I don't look to use it. I think the one game that it actually surprised me, and it did really well, and I'll be honest, I went in it not long ago and I was quite shocked because I was playing the game and I hadn't played the game for a long time, and the game had done some updates, and it was Grey Zone Warfare, and they had like a new night ops thing. So I went into it and I was playing the game, and I thought, in fact, I haven't even gone back to just check after the game had done all these updates what settings I was running, and I was running frame generation, and I'm a mouse and keyboard player, and I didn't know. I did not know, playing mouse and keyboard, that I was running frame generation, and I wasn't even running at a high frame rate. It was still under 100 FPS. It was around 100 FPS. So you would imagine at around 100 FPS or lower, you would notice quite a bit of latency within the mouse, and I didn't notice a damn thing. So I don't have a problem with frame generation, but it is probably the last thing I will look to use. I will generally always look to use upscalers or anything else before frame generation comes in. So the whole frame generation 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is, improvement that is going to be exclusive to the 50 series isn't something that makes me want to go and buy it. And then obviously there's no more VRAM on the 5080 compared to the 4080. That's not making me want to go and buy it. And then the 32 gigabytes of VRAM all the way up on the 5090 is way too much than I'm ever going to need. So that doesn't, I don't feel like, I really want to go and spend all of that extra money for all of that extra VRAM when I don't need it. So I don't know. It kind of means that maybe, obviously this generation was weird because Nvidia did the whole 4080 Super, which was pretty much a non-improvement to the GPU itself, and it was just a price readjustment. So there was nothing really super about the 4080. It was just a price adjustment. I mean, they could have literally just sold the same 4080 without doing any type of improvement on it and just said, hey, we're just reducing the price. It was a very strange thing from Nvidia to do. So maybe this generation we will see, and it might be something that I'm going to decide to just hold out, because the difference between the 5080 and the 5090 is so big that I kind of think that there's definitely room for a, it might be something bang on in the middle of 1500, 5080 Ti maybe, that's going to be bridge the gap completely straight down the middle between the 5080 and the 5090, and it will have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and I think that could be, that could be the GPU that will suit my needs best out of anything next generation, if that ever actually materializes. I don't like waiting that late in a generation. That's the only problem. I personally like to jump on quite early in the generation, and then I'll get the full use out of it throughout that generation, like I did with the 4080. The 4080 I bought very early in the generation, and I feel like, I know it's expensive, but I feel like I've got my money out of it, because it's run me through this generation. It's not giving me any hassle. I know a few people like to say, but it ran out of VRAM on fucking Indiana Jones. It didn't run out of VRAM. Okay, it did if you want to run it at absolutely everything on. But the only other GPU that would have done any better was the 4090. So I don't know why it's such a big deal. And one, it's not a game that I'm going to play anyway, so that's not an issue to me personally. And two, I could still run it at 4K Ultra. So I don't class that as running out of VRAM. When you actually have to drop a resolution because something is stopping you from running at that resolution, that's when I would obviously count it as running out. So it's not there yet for me. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there, because if not, I'll rattle on for too long, and I'll catch you in the next one.